What's up, bitches?
What up, Todd?
How's everybody doing? Corin, it's been a while, right? It's been like three weeks, 2 weeks? What's it been?
Yeah, 2-3 weeks, something like that.
By the way, how's my microphone? Is it good?
Yeah, you're all gravy. I'm in the heart setting now, so we should have the best sound quality ever.
Yeah, that's the extent of our knowledge on this. Like, put it on the heart. It'll be good. Just put it on the heart.
There's audio is so important, though. I listen to some podcasts, and you could definitely tell, if someone's, if it's echoing or some shit, so...
Yeah.
My bad if I'm on the wrong setting and my shit sounds weird.
Yeah, no, it's even worse than that. Like, I remember when I first started doing the show, I didn't think for 3 seconds about audio. I was like, whatever. If they hear me, they hear me. Isn't that the end of it? Like, who cares? Mm-hmm. But then I noticed myself later on listening to, other podcasts and stuff. If you're listening to somebody and it's not a high-quality sound, your attention span is legitimately shorter. Like, you'll sit there and you'll think, no, I could deal with this, but then, you'll start zoning out after, 5 seconds. But if you're listening to somebody with a really high-quality audio, mm-hmm. you could just lock in and listen.
Yeah, it's like you're in the room with them.
Yeah, it's really weird. I would have never guessed that was a thing, but it's really a thing. And so for me, for the live show that I do, mm-hmm. I use a very low-quality thing to do it, but that's because the live show is just kind of like a bonus. I'm more of a YouTuber than anything else, so I just kind of slap together all the stories and the materials in a live show, but the mm-hmm. quality audio of the live show is I'm literally talking into a telephone, and it's all trebly, and there's no bass, and it's not smooth, and it's not high quality.
Really? I thought your live show, you have a different microphone for the live show, right? The silver joint?
That's right. No, the silver microphone that you see in front of my face is the YouTube microphone.
Oh, okay.
And that is super duper high quality. Those microphones are really expensive. Uh-huh. So that's why I always sound super pristine on YouTube. But I have a little mic on my jacket.
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, that's for the live show, and it's a low quality thing. So people have reached out to me and been like, "Oh, come on, man! Make the live show audio better." I have to tell them look, it's just the live show. You got to think of that as a bonus. I'm not really a lot of people who do what I do. I know people who just had abandoned a live show. They were like, I'm not going to do a fucking live show. Why would I do a live show? Because it's a whole that's a whole thing. You need a whole bunch of people in the room with you, and you got to So, when people ask, oh, why don't you do the video version of the live show? It's well, then you need, 2 more people in there, and you got to, it's a whole nother ball game. It's a whole nother, thing. But, so I do a live show just to consolidate all the material and then slice it up later. But the quality on that sucks. But anyway, this is a long way of me saying, I listen, when I hear that, I go, yeah, I like listening to just YouTube better mm-hmm. because you get all the same material, and it's just high quality. It's just a high-quality audio. So
I remember one time I was in college, and Louis C.K. came to our college. It was before I even knew who he was. I really knew nothing about him. He had an HBO show, Lucky Louie or something like that. And for some reason, I went and checked it out. It was comedy show. I was whatever, I'll go. I like comedy. And before, he got on stage, and we were all ready for him to drop his jokes. And he was, fucking with the microphone. And, he kept tapping it. And it was an awkward 5 minutes where he was he got really tight at whoever set up his microphone, because supposedly he uses this special microphone that doesn't have this echo. And when he was talking, you couldn't hear anything.
Wow.
But to him, that was his shit. He needed his special. So they came out, switched his whole shit while we're all watching him. It was awkward, but then he got rolling, and it was It was good, but it was so important to him that mentally he couldn't have some other fucking microphone.
Yeah, so, I'm a bit of freakish perfectionist as well with certain things, where if it throws me off a little bit, I'm fuck this. I think I'm probably somewhere on the spectrum, on the autism spectrum.
Is that with everything? Because some people are superstitious about just particular about everything.
No, it's not everything, but
you can't move my fucking car seat or I'll get tight because I got that shit in the perfect position.
Yeah, but with other things, you're more relaxed and laid back. That's a specific thing, Jerry Seinfeld said it recently. He said, I think I'm on the spectrum somewhere, because and I related to this hard. He's I'm very literal. If you say something, I always just take it at face value. You know what I mean? like they say in Reddit forums. My buddy tells me that in Reddit forums, they put dash and then S when they're speaking and they're being sarcastic. Because if you don't do that, a lot of the people in Reddit forums are like somewhere on the spectrum, and everybody just takes everybody very literally. And then they'll get mad and they'll get in arguments, and the person's like, I was just kidding. Like, what do you mean I was just kidding? So I feel like that's me. Like, I'm very literal and
just like straightforward.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not like I feel like I would be a burden and a nuisance to somebody who's around me all the time because it's taxing. It's like, you know, it's like it probably feels a lot. It doesn't feel laid back. It feels like, you know, forced and controlling almost on my part. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Well,
at least I'm aware of it, though. I mean, I'm sure there are people who are like that, and they're just totally oblivious to it. they're perfectionists, and they try to control everything, and then people, like, they don't even know that they're just annoying the fuck out of everybody. But in some ways, it's probably a positive thing, because when it, like, so I don't clean a lot, but what I do is everything is orderly. You know what I mean? Like, so...
Like everything's scheduled, routine.
Well, that, but I'm also talking about, like, with material goods. Like, if you look in my room, you'll see, you know, like, colognes in a perfect order. And then if somebody were to pick one up and spray it and then put it down and it's not in the right order, I would immediately go and, like, put it back in order. So,
really?
Yeah, like, my medicine cabinet is on point. Like, everything is very orderly. So if I have, like... You know, like if a pillow's out of place or something, like I'll put it right back in place. But again, that's
is that like an OCD thing, or is that just like an organized like?
It
thing?
stems to the perfectionist thing, like how I'm a little bit of an insufferable perfectionist. But again, that doesn't mean everything, because like I won't fucking vacuum some shit forever. Like I won't clean it. Like it'll be dirty, but it'll be orderly. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm weird like that. I don't know why that is. Like, and I also hate clutter. You know how, like, some people are the opposite. Like, they're, like, kind of hoarders. Like, oh, I like to keep everything I've ever had ever in my life. Yeah. And I'm, like, the opposite. If I see a little bit of clutter, I'm like, all right, I got to clean it, get this out of the way. And then, like, I moved a bunch of times to this point in my life. And every time I moved, I basically would try to throw out as much shit as possible in between the moves.
Yeah.
So every time it was like I whittled down all the garbage that I don't need.
I guess that's a good thing. I try to do that, but then in the end, I keep everything. You know, I'm like, I don't need that. Like, T-shirts are the worst. I got so many T-shirts, and I'm sure a lot of people have fucking tons of T-shirts that, like, because I have a connection with it. I feel like, all right, like, someone gave me this from a basketball tournament. Like, I can't just throw this shit away.
You think I might wear this one, and then you haven't worn it in 4 years, and you're
Never
like,
wear it.
You're never gonna wear it again. But you think like, well, maybe there's an outside chance I might wear it at some point, and then you just never wear it.
Yep.
I'm the same way with my closet too. Like I throw a bunch of shit out, and then like I'll still just keep wearing the same, like, I don't know, 20 things over and over.
I have a pair of boxers from some girl's bat mitzvah, like when I went to dead ass when I was like 13 years old. The whole ass is open, like, but I still wear them just because it's comfy as fuck.
Yeah, no, I've done the same. I've worn boxers until I literally, like, hear the gigantic rip. Yep. Like, they will just rip wide open. And even then, like, it has to be so bad that they're just not wearable anymore. Like,
I don't know what it is with boxers and socks, but guys just wear them forever. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, because we think if it's still, like, intact, then why the fuck would I get rid of it? You know?
Yeah.
And then plus, I don't know, with socks in particular, like, there are these Puma socks I like that are very soft and nice. And, like, now any other sock, I'm like, this is bullshit. This is not a good sock, and I don't want to wear it. So I ordered, like, 9,000 of the Puma socks, and I'll just wear those until I die.
Do you have anything you do before the show, like routine-wise, that, like, if you didn't do it, you'd be like, fuck, today's not going to rock? Like,
yeah. So I usually have a little bit of caffeine 30 minutes out. Like, and then that gets me a little bit... pumped. You know what's funny? I used to have everything really super duper ready like 10 minutes before I go on air. Now, for whatever reason, I don't know why, it's like I'm incapable of consolidating that fast now. But like I will be on air already, and you hear me shuffling the sheets to get the stories in order.
Oh, really?
I don't know why that is. I have no idea why that is. But now it's like, and people know. Like I'll tell them. I'll be like, yep. here I am organizing the stories as I'm live talking to you. Isn't live fun? And then you just hear the shuffling.
Yeah.
So, no, but outside of that, not really. Just the caffeine, and there is a bunch of stuff required for the lighting that I have to do that, is just a given, and a bunch of stuff I have to do for the computers and stuff that are being used. But outside of that, there's like it takes like a good 15 minutes to set everything up to allow myself to go on air and have everything ready. So it's
People
just
are
those
like weird
things.
about that stuff. Like I noticed with like Stephen Colbert, he's always got like a Sharpie in his hand when he sits at his desk, and he's like he fiddles around with it and grabs a pen and will like bite on it.
Yeah.
And I'd always be curious if I ever had a chance to ask him, like, if you didn't have a pen or Sharpie, would you feel like off? You know?
Yeah, no, you're probably right. There probably are like crutches, mental crutches that get you going. Like for me, like 80% of the time when I come back from a break, I'll say son of a bitch. I'm like, son of a bitch, and then I start talking. And people are like, what? If they just start listening, they'll be like, what is wrong with this guy? But if they've been listening for a while, they'll be like, yeah, it's Kyle. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, that's what he does. Like, that's I don't know. You know what it's kind of like if you're running a sprint or a marathon and somebody shoots the gun in the air and then you go? Like, that's what it is. Like, that's the equivalent of the gunshot in the air for me. So, I hear the entrance music and then son of a bitch, and then, I start talking about whatever the stories are. So, yeah, there's some weird things. I think I would be surprised if somebody doesn't have those kinds of, like, little ticks to get you going, because when you talk for an hour and a half straight or some shit, and it's just solo, you have to break it up in certain ways. Like, I remember my friend asked me a while ago, like, how do you always fill the time, like, when you do your show? And I had to explain to him, like, no, by the way, say something real quick.
Hello?
Okay, never mind. I thought our audio was fucked up. So he said, how do you always fill the time? And I said, well, you got to think of it like this. I have, 12 stories in front of me. Mm-hmm. And you do 3 stories per 26-minute block. So when you think about it like that, okay, you do the math on that. Each story needs to be X amount long, which isn't really that long, and I could really riff on that story for double the amount of time that I riff on it. And then when you think of it as like, okay, fit 3 stories in 26 minutes, 3 stories in the next 26 minutes, then you go, oh, I see how it can be done. But if you think about it like just the whole time, an hour and 30 minutes, and you need to talk in that whole time, then it's a little intimidating, and people go, oh, shit, I don't know if I could do that.
Well, some people I feel like have that, and some people don't. Like,
of course,
I can hold a conversation with some people for a good amount of time, but then there comes a point where I'm like, I don't know what to talk about anymore.
Oh, no, I'm with you on that 100%.
Yeah, but you're sort of doing that, like, for speaking for an hour and a half. Like, I've thought about them. Like, could I speak for an hour and a half by myself? I'm like, I don't think so. And then I know, like, I've got this friend of mine yesterday. He called me, and I didn't want to talk at all. So I picked up the phone and literally...
Pause. He might watch this, so chill.
No, I don't give a fuck. Like, and I told him. But he was talking to himself for 4 minutes, and at the end, I was just like, you could just have a conversation with yourself. Like, some people could just talk. Like, they just have it in them to find things to talk about. They like talking about either themselves or other, like, they're curious about things. And some people just don't have that.
Yeah, but here's the difference, though. I can do that when I'm talking about the things I prepped to talk about. If I'm talking to, like, let's say I'm at a wedding or something and I'm having a conversation with somebody's uncle or some shit, I can't hold a conversation for 10 minutes. Sure. Because I don't give a fuck that you worked for whatever law firm for 13 years and you guys went on hunting trips every other year and it was fun in Wyoming and I should get out to Wyoming and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, all right, bitch, I don't care. And I'm under no illusions. I know they don't give a fuck about me either. I don't know that, they don't want to know what I do. Like, they don't care. So in a situation like that, I probably have less to say than your average person. But if you let me do my show where I read the news and I'm really interested in the things that I learned and I want to share it and I want to talk about it, well, then I could talk. And also, let's keep it real. There's an element of, like, massive selfishness in it, too. Because, like, I'm listening to myself talk, And, like, I'm trying to clarify my own thoughts and lay out what I think about a situation. So it's almost like just a narcissist's fucking empty palette. Is that what it's called? No.
Yeah, probably.
The thing you
Canvas?
draw on, whatever the fuck it's called, that the artist draw on. I don't know why. Canvas. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like an empty canvas, and it's just like a narcissist, like, let me paint you my picture. This is me. So there's there's that element of it too, which is easier. Like, I'm more into myself than Bob from Milwaukee, who I don't fucking know, But that's why it's a little weird, because then, like, when you meet people who know what I do, and there's a little bit of a weird dynamic, because I think they always expect me to be on. You know what I mean? Like, they expect me to be the same me that's on air when I'm riffing on stories and shit. Mm-hmm. And it's like, but this is a different social context, and we're doing like the traditional niceties. Hey, how are you? I'm very good. How are you? And it's like, that's not the same. Like, they expect me to go, hey, how are you? Now, anyway, sit down. Let me tell you about the marginal tax rates. See, what had happened in 1978 was that Ronald. So it's a little bit weird in that sense too. So I don't know, man.
I've caught in that, like, with people on Facebook. I've seen, like, them post all this stuff, and they seem so, like, energetic, and I'll see them in person expecting that same thing.
Hey. Yeah,
and it's just like, hey, and I'm like, oh, what the like, who's that? I want to talk to that guy.
Yeah, no, well, that's with Facebook, it's even weirder, because, like, my friend's wife was talking about this. She ended up deleting her Facebook.
Yeah, I rarely use mine that much anymore.
And she basically said, like, I'm tired of logging on and seeing the fake version of these people, And maybe I'm a little bit of a hypocrite, because people would say, well, is the version of you on air fake? Well, no, it's because that's actually, I'm really interested in the news and I want to talk about it, and I'm more socially awkward in person than I am when I'm just riffing. But for Facebook, it's like, it's almost like official state propaganda from like a dictatorship government. It's like, here we are, and we're in fucking Aruba, and look at this. I have a perfect tan, and she has a perfect tan, and we're smiling. Look at our white teeth, and we're on a gorgeous beach, and look at the perfect weather behind us, and this is us eating. Look, I'm having chocolate cake for dessert. Isn't this wine wonderful? It's expensive wine. You think we bought that? We're having fun. We love life so much. Oh my God, life is so great. And then, like you said, you see them in person, and they're like in their sweatpants at the bank or some shit. They look like shit.
You even ask them about that event. You're like, dude, I saw pictures from Aruba, and they're like, yeah, it was cool. It's like, no, you were just going crazy about it on Facebook. Like, give me a little more. And they're like, yeah. Right after that picture, it started pouring rain, and I'm like, all right, what the fuck then? Like, if you're gonna post it there, talk about it now. Like,
yeah, it allows people to paint a picture. Like, I want to say present their best version of themselves, but that feels like a stretch, because it's like, sometimes it's just the fake version of yourself,
Yeah.
Like,
well, it's so weird, because then you can never have a real conversation with. Like, I always hear this when people are always like, if you see a politician out, or like someone who, like Stephen A. Smith, he said this on air one time. He was like, I talk about sports 24/7 on air, and all the time is sports. So if you see me out, don't talk to me about sports. And it's like, so how can you connect with someone who you either respect or you don't respect if you can't talk to him about sports, if you see him in, like, in his element?
Yeah. No, that's okay. So I have a unique thing on this, because I'm in a somewhat similar position. So do I want to talk about politics if I'm just out not doing my show? Yes and no. It depends. So, like, the things that'll piss me off, it's like little things that shouldn't piss me off, but they get a little bit under my skin. Is like, if it's the one day a week that I finally get to, like, breathe a little bit, and then, like, I'll look at my Twitter feed or something, and, somebody will ask me, hey, did you watch whatever fucking new political thing on a Sunday, or a Saturday late? Like, did you watch this thing that just happened with politics? And it's like, okay, come on, man. I'm human. Like, I spend literally all day, every day during the week buried in politics, probably even more than the fucking president, and that's not an exaggeration. I got to read like fucking 15 to 20 articles a day.
Well, yeah, that's not hard to do with Donald Trump.
True. I got to read like 15 to 20 articles a day on politics, and so, like, the one breather second I have if you're asking me if I saw something that is political related, it's like, what do you think I am? Like a robot where I literally spent 24, like all my time without even a breather on politics? So stuff like that will piss me off. But if it's something interesting and it's something that's like new and it's brought up in a way that's not forced, then yeah, then I could fuck with it. But
like, I mean, what are they supposed to, like? What are they supposed to ask you? Like, so I keep using Stephen A. Smith, but like, I don't know anything about his life. Where if I saw him, I could be like, "Hey, how's your mom?"
So, I guess you know what it might be, and maybe this is the case for Steven. I don't know. You'd have to ask him. But like, I think the question thing more than anything is the annoying part. Like, if it's a question as if I'm some sort of guru, like, what's the deal with this thing or something? It's like, well, no, hold on now. If we want to have a conversation about politics, we can have a conversation about politics, but like, present something to me in a way where you're telling me about something you heard and this is what you think of it. You know what I mean? Like, to always present it as like, give me the the end all be all on almost it. Like they're asking me to be on air. Like, okay, you tell me what you feel about X, Y, and Z. Go. Like they're waiting for a show, and it's like, I'm not here to be your fucking dancing monkey. Like, if you really care about an issue and you learn something interesting, you know what you would do? You would talk to me about it, but you would present it in a totally natural way, and you'd say, man, isn't this fucking crazy? Like, let me tell you, this is what happened, and this is why I don't like it. And then I'll fuck with you, because, oh, shit, okay, so, and maybe I have a little bit of a different take, and then we flow, and then we go back and forth. But if you come up to me like, what do you think about X, Y, and Z? It's like, it's fucking Saturday night. I got a show on Monday. Pump your fucking brakes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And by the way, I don't mean this, even though it sounds like I mean it with malice. I get it. It's totally logical for people to try to, act like that with me. I'm just saying, you have to, if you take just a second and you think of, if you think of me as like, oh, he's actually a human being, not just a political robot, then you'd go, you know what? Yeah, I'll wait till Monday or some shit, So I don't know if I sound like a dick or not.
No, you broke that down, I think, to perfection. I mean, like,
but people need to know I am kind of a dick anyway, so like, deal with it.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Well,
because that was always my biggest thing, was like, if I like saw someone that I really liked in a field that I like, it's like they talk about this all the time. Don't go to them with that. Hit them with some. And another podcast I listened to, Bill Simmons was like, if you had Bill Belichick on a thing, what would you ask him? And I think it was Bill Burr was like, I'd ask him who his favorite like musician was or some shit, like something from left field,
Yeah. No, so I guess if you phrase it like that, like, I'm definitely more liberal and lenient and open-minded than Stephen A. Smith, because I will talk about politics with you. It just can't be, don't ask me if I saw some shit on like my one day off, and don't ask me questions and ask, like, kind of prod me to be on air. Like, if you want to come to me with some real shit and you tell me your opinion and you're interested in it, then we'll probably flow. So I'm more lenient than him in that respect, I guess. Because if he's on some hell no shit with sports, period, yeah, then I'm more lenient than him. Because I do like politics enough where even if in my off time, if you present something to me interesting and you give me your take and shit,
you can flow with it.
Yeah. So, by the way, we're like almost 30 minutes in. I haven't even gotten to anything on my list yet. So let me jump into that, because there's a bunch of shit I want to talk about. So Interstellar. Did you see the movie Interstellar?
Is that the one with Sandra Bullock or whatever?
No, it's with Matthew McConaughey.
Oh, what does he do? He goes to the moon or some shit? Or Mars?
Okay. So this is the problem with the movie. This is the problem with the movie, is that there's no easy answer to that fucking question. So, like, there's something going on with the Earth, and it's like, shit, the Earth is going to end because of maybe climate change, I guess you could say, but, like, it's like this toxic dust that fucking is engulfing everything, and the air is no longer, like, the oxygen content is getting lower and lower, and everybody's going to die, and blah, 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 blah. So he's this dude who used to work for NASA, then he, like, doesn't work for NASA. Oh, spoiler alert for everybody, by the way. Spoiler. So just turn it off for like 10 minutes.
It's like 88, so no one's like waiting on the edge of the seat.
Oh,
really?
Well, maybe, I don't know, maybe like 2 years old. I really don't know, but it's...
Yeah, so if you haven't, you could spoil the shit out of it.
Okay, so just spoiler, 10 minutes, everybody. That's the time, 10 minutes. It'll probably be less than that, but we'll just give you a 10-minute window here. So he used to work for NASA, and then he was like a farmer. Then like he fucking stumbles upon NASA again, and they're like, "We need you to pilot this ship to save the world." And he's like, "Oh, okay, I guess I got to do this." And so
movies are so absurd.
I know. Like I for the first like hour of the movie, I couldn't get over the first like 25 minutes. 'Cause I was like, why didn't they just make him like already working with NASA and not like be a farmer and then come back to it and shit? And they try to like make up for that in the end, but So anyway, they have to try to like find another planet that can be habitable. And, like, plan A is you find another planet that's habitable and you save humanity. And then, like, plan B is if that fails and you can't do it, we have, like, these human embryos that can become people. And, like, you're going to basically put that, you know, on a planet that might be habitable. And then they're going to, like, build a whole new, you know, human colony or something on another planet.
And they're supposed to just move everybody on Earth there, like.
So that's what Plan A is. Plan A is, like you got to find a planet that's habitable, and then if that is the case and we find one, then yeah, we're gonna try to move people from Earth there or some shit.
This movie sounds dumb as fuck.
Okay, but like here's the thing about it: there were parts of it there where the concepts were hot. Like one of the things they said is like. So they found this planet. First of all, they went through like a wormhole to get to a different galaxy because you can't. It just takes forever if you were to try to just go. So they had to get. Okay, they found this wormhole. They go through the wormhole, so they end up in another galaxy, and they know, like they have their course and where they have to go. And like a part that I found cool was they wanted to check out this one planet to see if it was habitable. Turns out the planet was like just all ocean. There was no land. It was just all an ocean, and every hour you spend on that planet equals 7 years back at Earth. So they ran into some trouble. There was like a giant tidal wave or some shit that hit them when they were there, and like they ended up being there and spending the equivalent of 23 years on Earth there on that planet.
So when they come back, are they 23 years in the future?
So when they get back, so they like they're still aging at like a normal Earth type pace.
Yeah.
But every hour they spent on that planet was 7 years back on Earth. So like they get back to the ship, to the the main ship after they ran into problems down there on that planet, and they have like Matthew McConaughey has 23 years of fucking messages from his family. And it's like he sees his son got married and shit. He sees his daughter's still mad at him for leaving in the first place. And that aspect was cool. I was like, damn, that's an interesting concept. Like this concept of like they're doing space travel, but days aren't the same on other planets. It's different. And so they like fucked with your concept of time and stuff. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, that's a cool concept.
I thought another thing I thought was cool was they go into like these weird like vats where they sleep. And I don't know why they do it this way, but I guess it's something to do with preserving your youth or some shit, and you don't age fast, or I don't know. But they put you in like almost like a Ziploc bag and dip you into water in this mechanical thing, and like you can program how long you sleep for. So if you're like the mission to Saturn, for them to get from Earth to Saturn was 2 years, and then after that, that's where they hit the wormhole and went through. So like for a lot of that 2 years, you just put yourself in like this mechanical sleep. So when you wake up, it's already been 2 years or some shit.
Okay.
So there were a lot of cool like sci-fi concepts in it where I was like, damn, this has a lot of potential. But then the movie just got too weird and with too many loose ends. Like
it sounds like there would be a lot of loose ends because there's so much shit going on.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said during it. I'm like, there's too much going on here. So like what ends up happening is
there a love story?
I
feel like there would like have to be something.
It's more of a love story in the other kind of love, like love of this Matthew McConaughey for his daughter and his
I was gonna say
family
and his relationship with her.
Yeah. And so they kind of run into some problems. This is the part where it just lost me. Like Matt Damon's also in the movie later on, right? And Matt Damon had already like set up camp on this planet that maybe is habitable, but not really because it's super fucking cold and it's like all rock everywhere. And he's like an evil character who wants to like when they learned that the plan A was a ruse, and the professor who said there's a plan A to save everybody on Earth, there actually isn't a plan to save everybody on Earth, but he needed to use that to trick them to leave Earth so that they could create plan B, which is create a human colony elsewhere. So they learn about that, and Matthew McConaughey's like, fuck this, like, we're going to try to get home now. And so Matt Damon's character is like, no, this is to save humanity, and, you know, he tries to fucking kill him, basically, or some shit. And that's where I'm like, all right, come on, man. Like, you had such cool concepts, and then you ruined it by making it almost too human and too... Like, that's if there was some real shit like this happening where NASA's trying to, like, save the Earth and shit.
And there's some petty fight shit going on.
Yeah, there wouldn't be some petty fight
like...
shit going on a planet nobody's ever fucking heard of or some shit. And, yeah, so... And then, like... This is where it really lost me. Then, like, okay... He tries to... They don't have enough fuel to get all the way back to Earth, but they do have enough fuel to check out a different planet where they've already had another mission where, you know, they set up a little camp and they're trying to, whatever, create humanity. And what happens is, like, Matthew McConaughey needs to stay behind because there's not enough fuel on the ship to get both of them there. You need to lighten the weight. And so this other woman who he's with, played by Anne Hathaway, I think her name's Anne Hathaway.
Yeah, okay, now
yeah. So she gets to that other planet. Matthew McConaughey stays behind, and when they had to take another wormhole to get to the other place. So Matthew McConaughey falls into, like, this weird dimension where he's like a ghost that tries to send messages to his daughter so that his daughter can crack some code to actually save humanity and bring people from Earth to a new planet.
This movie sounds OD.
That's where it totally lost me. I was like, come on, man. Like, you had so many good concepts, and you didn't have to, they're just doing extra shit.
Yeah.
It's just over the top. Like, I get it. It's science fiction. A certain level of over the top is expected, and I'm not going to get on you for a little bit over the top. But then when you added the ghost fucking thing, and then somehow they find him in fucking space in a fucking black hole, like, the Rangers just found you. You're lucky. You only had a few minutes left on your oxygen supply.
Yeah,
and so
I can't get down with that.
He's 124 fucking years old at the point when they find him. He wakes up in a hospital. He sees his daughter. His daughter's now an old-ass lady on death's doorstep about to die. And it's like, chill.
I wouldn't even have made it that far. I would have turned that shit off right in the beginning.
And then there's a lot of fucking, like, obnoxious music in the movie. Like,
I would have fell asleep too.
They tried to make it like, you know how they have the orchestra and it's like the mood music they try to put with it. But another thing that pissed me off is sometimes, like, there was a really important scene where you learn that the Plan A was a ruse, basically. And the old ass professor dude, when he admits it on his deathbed to Matthew McConaughey's daughter, that character, like, he's like mumbling and you can't understand him, and they have the mood music in the background, and it's like too loud, and you're like,
makes it even worse.
I needed fucking subtitles to listen to this shit. Like, I didn't even hear what he was saying. So I get tight. Like, now little things will piss me off. I'm such a cranky old man. Like, if there's a movie and they don't use, like, a compressor for it, and this is going to be an ironic criticism because people were yelling at me for, like, a year and a half before I started using a compressor on my microphone. So, like, I'm kind of a hypocrite on this. But I use a compressor now, so not totally a hypocrite. But, like, if you don't compress the audio, which means your peaks and your lows are equalized, basically, to make it, like, the audio sound basically all the same. So even if somebody yells in the thing, it'll still be the same kind of normal sound, right? I don't think they used a compressor for it. So, like, I'll be sitting there and the audio was on, like, 25 or something, and then all of a sudden it sound like it's fucking 80, and I have to lower it more, and then everything would get super low, and I'd have to make it the audio on, like, 45. And it's like I kept having to adjust it. And I'm like, is this my TV? Is this the fucking movie? I don't know what it is, but it's annoying. Yeah. So,
well, that's like with commercials when they're fucking the show's low as hell, and then I think commercials are louder. So, like, you're like, what the come on, Doritos?
I don't know if they made it illegal in New York State or if they made it illegal at the federal level, but I think they made that illegal, but they still do it. It's
still loud.
I know, and it's so obnoxious. Like, I will go out of my way to not buy your fucking product. And another thing that pisses me off is just unnecessary music. Like, if like if my audio is on a certain level on YouTube, and then I click on a video, and then there's an ad for something before the video. Sometimes the audio on the ad is way higher than what it would have been on the video, and then it starts unnecessarily with some loud ass music. And I'm like, what the stop? Just like just give.
I feel like companies just don't understand it. Like just keep it the same. Like just keep shit like.
Their
you're just gonna
reasoning
piss
is
somebody off. There's nobody that's gonna get enjoyment out of that.
But their reasoning is, well, in the commercial, that's when everybody gets up to go to the bathroom, and when they're in the bathroom, you want them to hear when they're pissing. That you want them to hear. Like buy Doritos or some shit.
Fucking commercials now, anyway. But back to the Interstellar shit. If their whole movie, like, goes to any movie. If it like hinges on one scene where you have to like pick, where if you missed that line, like option A was a hoax, and like if you missed that line,
it's like
you're lost. You're lost.
No, there were parts of the movie where I was just lost, and I was like, I don't. And then eventually it tied it all together, but I was like, you overreached like a motherfucker.
I can only get down on like movies like The Day After Tomorrow. That's my shit. Because I'm like, that could actually happen. Like once they start jumping through fucking wormhole, I guess some people are into science fiction and like cool like spaceships and rocket weird shit. Well, Star Trek and all that.
That's why I was so upset is that they had so many cool science fiction concepts where if they just had a little bit of a more simple plot, I would have loved the movie. Like, I think it could have became like a cult classic. And like, you know how Star Wars is like a cult classic? Like, it's got its own thing. And everybody's like, oh, Star Wars. And like, people think about it all these years later, and they've made so many, prequels and this and that.
In like an unrealistic way. Like, this one is sounds like a mix where it's like sort of realistic, where some people don't know about like the wormholes or whatever they are.
Well, it's not really realistic, but it's science fiction that's conceivable. Like you go, I can understand we got to go through a wormhole to get to this place and shit.
See, I'm more down for the Day After Tomorrows and like the shit that could actually happen. Like
my mom
Jurassic
keeps calling me, by the way. Pause. I keep having to decline the call. Anyway, go ahead.
But shit that's unrealistic, I can't get down with. Yeah. The only one I could was like Jumanji because that was just an OG classic.
No, Jumanji is great. I did enjoy Jumanji. But I don't
like any of the. I love Day After Tomorrow because every time it's on, I'm like, this shit is going to happen in a couple of years.
They go over the top with it. Like climate change isn't going to happen like that, but over time, climate change the sea level rise is going to take over cities, and you're going to have famine. Do you know anything
about this big ass iceberg or something in Antarctica that I think I heard Joe Rogan talking about it, and he was like, it's going to break off.
Yeah.
Does that do anything to us?
If you have a fucking giant state-sized or country-sized iceberg floating free in the ocean, that's going to be major problems. No, like that's the thing. Climate change is going to fuck us all up, man. It really is, but it's not going to happen in the way like Day After Tomorrow. Like I like that movie though. I like that movie, and I liked I actually like San Andreas too. I mean,
is that with The Rock?
Yeah, but it's goofy and it's over the top, but you know what you're getting with a movie like that. It's not like overreaching. Like with Matthew McConaughey's shit, Interstellar, it's overreaching. Like it thinks it's more important and vital than it is, and it thinks it's higher minded than it is, where it just got confusing. With San Andreas, you know what you're getting. It's just like this is a crazy action movie with like way over the top shit happening, but you know what you're getting when you go into it. So I don't know. I like that one. But the other movie I wanted to talk to you about, I watched this week. I don't know if you saw this one. Did you see Michael Moore's Where to Invade Next, I think it's called?
Nah.
Okay, so it's kind of newish. Not really. Again, like 2-3 years or something like that, I guess. But so there were parts of it where I'm watching and I'm like, damn, this is crazy, and he's nailing it, and what a great story he's telling. Like, for example, he's comparing, and it's not really about foreign policy as much as one might think it is, because it's called Where to Invade Next. But, so, like, he goes to France, and he goes to their, like, public schools, and he eats lunch with the kids and stuff. And the kids get, like, 3-course fucking meals, and it's all, like, healthy but tasty shit, and you look at the menu and it's like, oh my God, how do they come up with this? And then he describes like, well, you have a nutritionist and a dietitian and you have the chefs, and they sit down and they plan out the meals for the month and stuff.
Damn.
And you compare that to the U.S. and you remember like, oh, let's get just one.
I was just thinking as you're talking that, like we used to have the lunch section, and then there would be the side section for like snacks, and they had like Slurpees, Otis Spunkmeyer cookies, pretzels, like disgusting shit. But like
pizza, it was good. The pizza was good. But like they showed these little French kids like what people eat in the U.S. and they were like what the fuck are you doing? And at first you think like, okay, well he's more in probably like in like a wealthier area in France, so that's why this is so nice. He's like, no, this is actually one of the poorest areas and one of the poorest schools. And like, so he does this with a bunch of shit. Like he goes to Slovenia and he talks to people. He's like, do you have student debt? And the person's like, debt? What's that? And he's like, shut up. Like, you don't have debt? They're like, what? I don't know what that means. And then they're like, one of them has to explain, like, debt is where, you owe money. And they're like, no, of course not. They started, like, laughing. He's like, that's weird. So in Slovenia, they have, free college. Mm-hmm. Like I said, he goes to France where, like, the public school system is so much better and so much nicer and they actually care about the kids. Oh, he goes to, I think it was Finland? Was it Yeah, I think it was Finland with the best education system in the world. And, like, they're like, okay, so what are the rules? They're like, there's no homework. And he's like, what? They're like, yeah, there's no homework. And they describe how, like, the kids are they're kind of, like, raised to take their interests and then learn about their interest, and then they can find a career that's based on their interest, and they're learned to, like, love life, and they got rid of standardized testing and all that stuff, and it's the #1 education system in the world.
I can get down with that.
So exactly. So anyway, he goes to all these places and shows all these things, and you're like, damn, like, this is crazy. It blows your mind, and it really makes you realize, like, we think we're doing it, but we're not fucking doing it. And who are we kidding, right? We just have these ways that we do things, and even if they don't work, we're just like, well, that's just the American way, and it's just the right way, and that's just how it is. Like, you got to be miserable when you go to school, and blah, blah, blah. So there were parts of it that I loved, obviously, this movie. But then other parts of it, I'm like, you just outlived me by 1.5 miles. Like, you're way to the left of me, Michael. So there's a part where he talks about prisons. Now, the part on prisons, he starts out good, and he's like, okay, this is what a prison in Norway is like. And you see that the prisoners are not treated like shit. Like, they're treated like humans. Yeah. And you go, well, that's good. Like, you should obviously have a system like that. Their recidivism rate is 20%. Our recidivism rate is fucking 80%. So obviously they're doing something right. So when people get out of jail, they don't end up going back to jail. Most of them end up staying out of jail. So, but then he gets to the part of like, okay, now let's go to a maximum security prison. And he goes to the maximum security prison. These motherfuckers, there was a dude, he's like, oh, what are you in here for? The guy was like, murder. He's like, oh. He was in a kitchen. But right behind him, there's a whole bunch of sharp-ass knives. He's like, so you're just allowed to, like, work with those knives and stuff? He's like, yeah. It's like, but you committed murder. The guy's like, yeah. And it was just totally normal. Like, this guy who was a convicted killer.
So you weren't okay with that?
Hell no!
I know, but I mean, like, if the guy's if he's not killing anyone, that's okay, what's up that they let him.
But this gets to my fundamental disagreement with Michael Moore and why I think that is too liberal. Again, that's not to say I want to take the U.S. system and make it a lot more like the Norwegian system for prisons, but I wouldn't go full Norwegian because they get crazy at a certain point. Because here's the thing. It's just simply naive to assume that, like, everybody's capable of rehabilitation. Because that's just not true. Like, there's some people who are compulsive killers, who they have, for whatever reason, they're wired wrong or something, where they have a lust for killing, like normal people might have a lust for sex. You know what I mean? So you don't just, oh, fine, keep them around the knives. If the motherfucker committed murder, like, if there was ever a time to keep any person away from knives or weapons, but it's even worse than that, though. Like, this is just one example. So there's another part where there's convicted killers, and they have their own recording studio and recording label.
What's wrong with that?
Convicted killers, and they get to go to prison and have more opportunity than when they were free? That's fucking crazy, dude.
If they're putting their money towards recording studios, let them make some music.
That's tax dollars. That's not their money.
Yeah, then that's
fucked up. Like, I'm not paying taxes for a murderer to have... Like, you literally see a guard walk into a room. There's two people who were convicted of murder standing there rapping. And you see, like, it says the name of their fucking record studio in paint on the wall. And they have all the equipment and shit. And it's like, come on, man. Like, I get it. The United States is way too punitive with our not judicial system, with our criminal justice system, and with our judicial system. But you can't, like, have a system that's 100% based on rehabilitation, and then you have a guy like Anders Breivik who murdered over 50 children and slaughtered them and said, I don't feel sorry at all. This is the right thing to do. And then he gets to complain that he only has a PS2 and he wants an Xbox. I will take that PS2 and shove it up your funky ass, bitch. Like, just fucking complaining because you get a PS2. You murdered over 50 kids. Like, fuck you with a trillion demon dicks from hell. No, that's too liberal. That's too liberal.
Well, even our jails. I mean, prisoners are allowed to play basketball. They're allowed to work out. There's barbershops. There's, but they're having fun a little bit. They're, like, to the extent that they can in prison. I mean, like, they shouldn't have a recording studio, but, we still let prisoners who did the most, like,
we're still
heinous crimes, they're still allowed to have some fun, like.
Yeah, no, but we're too dickish. Like, there's a lot of people are on 23-hour lockdown. Like, no, that's too dickish. Like, maybe for a guy like Breivik, okay, 23-hour lockdown for him, for, like, the worst of the worst cases.
Yeah.
I get that. But, like, outside of that, like, no, don't do 23-hour lockdown. Like, I guess the point, for the recording studio point, I guess the idea is, look, that's tax dollars paying for that shit, man, that bought all that equipment, and I don't want my fucking tax dollars going to give a convicted murderer, like, pleasures in life. Like, something feels really gross with that.
Well, that goes to the bigger thing where, like, people don't want to give their taxes to, like, Americans who don't work because they think they're just taking their money,
Well, so it depends. Like, if it's people who, lost their job through no fault of their own because the economy sucks and they've been trying but they're on hard times, then I have no problem giving them unemployment and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I guess there's an argument for, well,
that's why a lot of people get mad when they're like, so I spoke to one guy. He's not the most educated person, but he was like, man, I go shopping and I see this lady in front of me using her food stamps for, cigarettes and this and that. And, that's why I'm voting for Trump or whatever. He's going to take that away, like, so. I
don't know if they can buy, I think you have to use food stamps for food. Like, I don't think you can buy
there's ways
cigarettes
in the city where, like, you could trade out your food stamps and, like, there's ways I think you can get
around it.
Yeah, with food stamps.
Right, yeah.
But you can still buy, like, unhealthy, like, you could buy whatever, like, Kool-Aid and, like, all.
Yeah, you
like,
could buy unhealthy shit.
Unhealthy shit,
yeah.
So people
I don't know.
Food.
Food, I kind of file under a separate thing because, like, you need it to survive. So I'm more liberal on that point. Like, and even if they use it for, like, I don't know, like, if we had a system where it's just cash to people, let's say, who are poor, and then they were to use it, a little bit of it for, like, weed or something, I still get it. Because if you're poor, like, you need to be high more than anybody. Like, I feel bad for you. Like, you're in a shitty situation. But I don't know. I guess maybe I'm just a little more conservative on crime. Like, I guess my sympathy almost runs out if you're a violent criminal. Like, if you're a criminal who's not violent, then I have nothing but sympathy for you, and I want to just do rehabilitation. Like, I think society should do everything to get you back on your feet, and, we should give you a second chance, and that I'm totally cool with. But if it's a violent crime...
That goes against your point against, like... So I was thinking with the school things where, so you agreed where schools you should do something that you'd like,
right?
That you're interested in. So in prison, I mean, they should have shit that the prisoners are interested in. So they, when that guy gets out of jail, instead of murdering people, he goes to music, and he.
Yeah, but aren't there limits though? Like, I feel like a guy like that.
There's got to be some limits.
If for prison there should be limits. For school, of course, there's no limits. You want to build a recording studio in a fucking school? Hell yeah, you got my blessing. I want those kids to be able to do whatever they want and be as happy as they want. But if you murdered somebody, like, here's access to some books. You want to read some books? Read some books. You want to spend a little bit of time shooting hoops? Fine, shoot some hoops. But, like, I feel like there should be gradations of it. Like, it depends what crime you committed. If you just committed a drug offense, first of all, I don't even think you should fucking be in jail, Like if you just committed like an offense with weed or cocaine or some shit, I don't care. You shouldn't even be in jail. But like for a lower level crime, gear it more towards rehabilitation, give them more freedom, more leeway. I got no problem with somebody like that having access to a fucking PS2 or some shit. But I don't know. I guess they just lose me on the murder one. Like I'm just I'm not forgiving of that. Like I'm not.
That's a little much.
Yeah, because to me that's like the ultimate immoral, unethical, selfish act. Like, and that obviously depends on a case-by-case basis. Maybe it was manslaughter and they killed them, but they didn't mean to, and that's different. But if it's like, oh, I murdered somebody, well, look, it's acceptable because, I don't know, I found my wife cheating on me. I don't give a fuck if she was cheating on you with 17 dudes and there were 3 dicks in her ass. I don't care. You don't get to fucking kill her, you selfish prick buffoon asshole. You know? So, I don't know. It's just that murder one that gets me. Like, if somebody commits murder, don't let him have a fucking recording studio. But the thing that was really annoying is like Michael Moore presented it as like hello, like obviously they're doing it right. Like, what are you, stupid fucking Americans? Like, this is the way to do it. You give fucking murderers recording studios. And at that point, I was like, oh, is this how conservatives feel when they watch liberals talk about anything? Because obviously on 90% of things, I'm with the liberals, and I think the conservatives are idiots. But on that point, like, I felt like fucking Sean Hannity watching Michael Moore, and I'm like, why are you presenting this like it's a positive thing? Like, this isn't even debatable. And then there was another part of it where he got into, like, women versus men, and he brought up how, like, okay, the fight for women's rights, obviously super important, 100% on the side of the women. But then he brings up this crash in, I think it was Denmark, the crash of the economy there, and how the only bank that stayed solvent was a bank run by women. And they had a very simple rule. If we don't understand it, we're not going to buy it. We're not going to invest in it. We're not going to like be affiliated with it. So they were the only bank that survived like the crash of the economy and the collapse of the financial sector there. And Denmark did something we should have done, which is they jailed the bankers who were largely responsible. But they were pretty much all men. So he made like a very gender-related point to that and kind of asked this question, which I thought was kind of hacky, which is like, imagine if in the U.S. it was women running all of Wall Street. Would we have been in this terrible situation or something? And I'm thinking like, okay, you lose me here a little bit too, because he's generalizing. Like, okay, so a lot of men fucked up and made a lot of shitty decisions. I don't think they made those decisions because they're men. I think they made those decisions because they're shitty people who were selfish and narcissistic. And so, I don't know. I just felt like that was generalized. Like, he almost painted it like...
Louis C.K. had a bit about that where he said, just on the pure fact that Hillary Clinton is a woman alone, like she's a mother. And it's just nature for women and mothers to be caring and to, you know, console. Whereas guys, they're just, you know, supposed to be out there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, it's like generalizing, but there's some truth to that. Like, you're a mother.
I don't think so, man. Like, okay, I get it. Like, the maternal instinct, paternal instinct thing, I get. But I feel like people take these little grains where there are real solid differences, and they just extrapolate. And it's like, well, the nature of man is X, Y, and Z, and the nature of women is X, Y, and Z. And at what point is that, like, rigid projecting of qualities onto somebody who's one sex or another sex? At what point is that generalizing? At what point is that stereotyping? At what point is that sexist? You know? Like, in my mind, it's always been the case, whether it's race or whether it's gender or whatever it is, I'm going to look at you as an individual and judge you on the content of your character and as an individual, you know? So I don't like the built-in assumption. Like,
I think that's just what history shows, you know, and that's what people are basing it off of, is like all Michael the Moore, facts that we've known have just been men. He also makes the point, though, that like, oh, if there's women, there'd be fewer wars. And that's just not true. Look at fucking Margaret Thatcher. Like, there are female leaders who do shitty fucking things. And I feel like in his attempt to not be sexist, he swings the spectrum so far in the pro-women direction that he almost says, like, women are superior in every way. Like, what does that mean, man? Like, which women? What women is Sarah Palin fucking superior to Noam Chomsky? You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I get annoyed when it's not viewed on an individual basis, when he just kind of lumps it together in a broad way, and he's like, well, this bank was run by women, and they're good, and all the other ones were men, and they fucking crashed it. So that's the end of the conversation, and let's just all... implied from my line of argument right now is, wouldn't it be great if women ran absolutely everything? When my whole take on it is, let people do whatever they want to do, and if there's going to be even, let's say, 60% women running shit and 40% men running shit, I don't care. That's fine. It's fine if it's majority women. It's fine if it's a majority men. I just want freedom and people to make their own choices, and I'd rather judge people on an individual case-by-case basis than just to take a characteristic like or quality like their gender and say this is what they are. To me, it almost sounds like if you were to do a study and say, well, let's look at the crimes of people with blue eyes versus the crimes of people with brown eyes. And it's like, well, why would you do that? It's like, who cares that their eyes are blue and their eyes are brown? Like, it just seems almost irrelevant. Like, why does it's just a weird categorization to use. And gender, of course, is a little different because there are solid biological differences. We have dicks, they have vaginas. We have more testosterone, they have more estrogen. We all get that. But, like, when you branch out beyond those hardcore biological differences and you try to come up with steadfast rules that apply where you can project what a woman is and what a man is, I don't know, just something about that sits the wrong way with me, you know?
Yeah, I agree. That's tough to generalize about, the gender, but I don't know. My thoughts on it is just, we've seen in the past, and maybe they haven't had as much opportunity to be shown as, as aggressive as men, but the women that I know from history and in the past have all been peaceful and, civil rights, positive and not aggressive fighting, but they also haven't had those opportunities as men to be like, let's go to war and fuck shit up,
Yeah, and I'm not saying there are no differences. Like I just said, everybody knows there are differences. Like, it is literally the case that men are overwhelmingly more physically strong on average than women. Like, that's a thing. Like, it just is what it is, And I don't know, maybe it is the case that women I don't know, I've never seen a study on it, but maybe it is the case that women on average have a slightly higher IQ or some shit. But my whole point is, like, even breaching these conversations, it's almost like, who would want to go down that path unless you're trying to make a sexist point in one direction or the other? Like, unless you're trying to make the point, men are better or women are better. Like, why would you want to go down this path? It's the same as the people who say, like, well, blacks commit more crimes than whites do on average. Why would you even bring that up? Because you're trying to say, like, whites are superior and blacks are inferior. And you're trying to take some very broad, like, cherry-picked statistics and say, let me make my case based off this, and that's the, like, this is...
but some things are just, like a fact of what... But the environment we live in, like, some people think whites have been superior to blacks, so it's like, you got to start there. You can't just start, all right, women and men are equal when we're living in a world where women and men are not equal. You know what I'm saying?
The reality of it is that women or men are not equal in terms of societal outcomes and in terms of some basic little biological differences. But I think equality under the law should be the case and is super important. And I don't know, I feel like people who want to bring those points up, it's almost always nefarious. And what Michael Moore did is he did it in the other direction for the first time like I've ever seen. So usually the case is made in the other direction where, conservative pricks are like, well, women, they belong in the home and in the kitchen and make my stuff and make my food and suck my dick. And like, so that's a nefarious thing because what they're saying is the nature of woman is to be servile and to like listen to a man. And my response to that is always like, but you're generalizing. There are a lot of women who want to go out in the workplace and who want nothing to do with cooking your fucking meal, you shitty asshole. And like, so that's my response to that. I feel like it would be hypocritical of me if my response to Michael Moore wasn't effectively the same, where he's trying to make a point like women are smarter and they don't crash the economy and they don't fucking start wars and shit. And again, my response is like, which women? There are a lot of men who don't want to start wars. Like, if Noam Chomsky was fucking president, if I was fucking president, if whatever, like, I wouldn't crash the economy. I know what. So, I mean, I guess he can make a point about the averages of it and the numbers of it and the statistics of it. That, okay, it is true from a statistical perspective. But again, to even breach that conversation is like breaching the conversation of, like, black crime versus white crime. The blacks commit more crimes. And it's like, okay, but you still should judge people on a case-by-case basis and an individual-by-individual basis. And for you to make that point is like they're hinting that, like, well, yeah, I'm on team white and not team black. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, I don't know. This is one of those conversations where it's tricky to have because there's grains of truth sprinkled in it from the opposing side, but it's like the grain of truth, I think, is used to be misleading.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's a misleading thing to say, like, you know, oh, these women didn't crash this bank, so therefore, like, women should run everything. Like, wait, what? No, why can't individuals should choose what they want to do, and sometimes it'll be women, sometimes it'll be men, and they should be equal, and it should, you know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's tough. It's tough to debate because, like I said, everybody's got a different starting point. You know, everybody's got different biases. So I don't know.
Yeah, and I also, I don't know, we don't need to keep going on this, but like I always feel weird when people make that point about and they say like, well, blacks commit more crimes than whites, and then they have the, you know, the statistics in the U.S., for example, to do that, and I always think like, yeah,
is that even true? Is that even true?
It is true that more violent crime is committed by black people than white people, but this is my counterpoint to that. There's a few counterpoints to it, but the first one is like, okay, but you're not counting like Wall Street white-collar criminals as like a violent crime, but as a direct result of their actions and their predatory loans.
Bernie Madoff, who fucked over so many people.
Not just Bernie Madoff, the whole system was built on fraud, and like literally hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people lost their homes because of these people. Like stealing a home, that doesn't count as a violent crime, but if you go into a liquor store and take a 40 ounce, that counts as a violent crime. It's like, well, then your metric you're using is fucked up. And then furthermore, this point should be obvious to everybody. But whenever somebody brings up like, well, you know, blacks commit more crimes, and the implication is like, well, they're just inherently violent, and the white man isn't inherently violent. The first thing that should pop into your mind is, what about the Nazis? Like, they want to use like the cherry-picked stat of inside the U.S., blacks commit more crimes than whites. And it's like, okay, but if you just broaden out your... you know, or your even sample
slavery.
Size. Yeah, or slavery, exactly. like what there was institutional violence against black people, but what they do is they say, well, that just doesn't count. Well, why doesn't it count? Because it was institutional and it wasn't out in, like, it's like, no, that fucking counts, idiot. So yeah, so that's the other thing is like whenever people make those points, even if it's a true point, it could just be massively misleading. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, okay. But anyway, you probably got to go soon, right?
I got to go in a little, yeah. I still got some time.
All right, there are a few more things I wanted to...
You know what I was thinking about, though, when you said the education thing?
What?
It would always be so funny to me when, like, you would never see, like, the hood-ass kids in any of your other classes at school, but then at gym class, they'd show up. Because, like, they got to socialize there more, but they were doing something that they liked. You know, so if you just have different programs and, like, classes that kids like, they'll show up. Where if you force someone to go to like an earth science class, that they won't ever.
Oh, you're talking about it in high school.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know why I was thinking middle school, but okay. Yeah.
No, in high school, like, so it goes back to the point of just like there should be like just classes. That
it should be more leeway and you get to pick. Yeah. Like I always said, I learned more from my own research online than I ever learned in a classroom.
Mm-hmm.
You know. So what that shows is when I had my interests and I pursued them, my mind was this open thing that was like, I just want to absorb all the information. But like for me, for example, I'm literally the dumbest person in the world at math. So you try to get me to do math, it's not gonna, there's no positive outcome of that. There's no effect of that. Like I get me having to take like a basic math class, but at a certain point, yeah, and in Finland is probably the case that at a certain point they say, okay, but what do you want to do? All right, well, I'm more interested in this. Then we're going to do this.
Well, if the math class was just called like credit card class or something like that, not like calculus.
Yeah, but there was a practical application to that.
Yeah.
But what they do is they make the kids feel like, no, you could really do anything. So if there's a kid who says, I want to be a politician when I grow up, okay, then they'll cultivate and foster an environment that makes that kid feel like, oh, I actually can be. I'm going to run for office, and this is going to happen. So there was actually funny. There was a part where they were in a prison.
Mm-hmm.
And the prisoner was like, yeah, I'm studying and I want to be a politician when I get out. And Michael Moore was like, you're a prisoner, dude. Like, you're going to get out of here and you're going to still have that on your record. He's like, yeah, but I want to be a politician. And, like, they're so open-minded there that it's like, well, that's not, depending on what crime they commit, hopefully. I hope they wouldn't vote for anybody who committed murder. But, like, if it was something else and I don't think that guy was a murderer, then it's like, okay, cool. Yeah, no, I'm with that. Again, I'm with their prison thing, I'm with them like 70% of the way. Like the last 30%, they lose me. Like I'll take 70% of what they do, and then 30% I'm not touching the fucking, murderers with recording studios and shit. But they do have it more figured out than we do. Like I don't want to give anybody the misimpression.
Didn't Ted Cruz try to shit on them during the debate with Bernie with their healthcare, saying,
"Oh, fucking Ted Cruz." Yeah, he. I see this. I had mixed feelings on that debate because like it reminded me of Ken Ham versus Bill Nye. Like, Ken Ham just is a liar who doesn't know what he's talking about, and he's saying things that are misleading and factually incorrect, and he's put on a stage with Bill Nye who knows what he's talking about, and it's presented as like a 50-50 thing. And it's like, it's not 50-50. Bill Nye knows what he's talking about. Ken Ham doesn't. And it was the same thing with Ted Cruz and Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, but didn't Bernie shit on him? Like, how do you get around that then?
There were parts of it where Bernie was, like, eating his lunch and fucking crushing him. But then there were parts of it where, like, I tried to put myself in the shoes of somebody who's, like, a moderate kind of person who doesn't really follow politics but might consider themselves conservative, but they don't know much. Like, they might walk away going, yeah, Ted Cruz done got him. And it's like, because Ted Cruz, he knows all the right-wing talking points and the bullshit arguments to fire back. Like, one thing he said to Bernie was like, waiting lines. Oh, there are waiting lines in all these single-payer systems, and you want waiting lines here, and blah, 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 blah. And, like, that's so misleading because the waiting lines are for elective procedures. So for procedures you don't need, for procedures that are, like, a choice. Obviously, how they ration care there and how they prioritize it is they do it by need. So if you need it, you get the help right away. And here, how we ration care is by the size of your fucking wallet. The richer you are, the better care you're going to get. So people could need care, but they're poor, they don't get it. So and then he cited examples of, like, let me tell you, like, 3 different horror stories from single-payer systems. Ted, 45,000 people die in the U.S. every year because they don't have access to basic care. He just overlooks that, ignores it, and then he starts talking about, let me tell you these anecdotal horror stories from single-payer systems. So you're right, there's no way around it. There's no way around it. Like, Ted Cruz is a senator. We have to deal with the fact that he's a senator, and he's got a fucking platform, so he needs his, his garbage to be beat back against. But it's just a shame that it's not presented. Like, the whole point of news is supposed to be to give facts and information and data and stories of what's happening in the world. And in a world that made sense, like, there would be a panel after the debate between Bernie Sanders and Ted Cruz where CNN fact-checks all the claims, and they say, Bernie was right about 100% of what he said, and Ted Cruz was wrong. You know what I mean?
They don't do that?
No, they don't do that, because then they'll be accused liberal bias, liberal bias, liberal bias, liberal bias, and the right wing will go crazy, and CNN cowers into a corner. But the thing that drives me fucking crazy is that there's an assumption in that, like, the truth always has to be neutral. Sometimes the truth isn't fucking neutral. Sometimes the truth is liberal. Sometimes when a Democratic politician says climate change is real and it's largely man-made and we need to do something about it, and then a Republican comes along and says, no, it's not, it's a hoax. Okay, one of them is right and one of them is wrong. And if you don't say that the Democrat is right and the Republican is wrong, well, then you're giving a misimpression that it's 50-50, and furthermore, it's actually a bias in a conservative direction. Because if you're giving them 50% credit when they deserve 0% credit, you have a conservative bias. And this is what happens in the mainstream media. They can't call a spade a spade. They can't say, oh, this person says evolution is true, that person says it's creationism. Well, evolution is correct. They never say that. It's always like, let's have the debate. Let's have Bill Nye and let's have Ken Ham. But that's not fucking right. Like, you can have the debate if you want, but then you got to get the fact. Tell people what the answer is. There's a real answer on these things. Like, it is true that France has the #1 healthcare system in the world. So you can't just, like, overlook that or act like it's just an opinion. No, it's a fact. So I don't know. That's why I have mixed feelings. Don't get me wrong. He wanted to do
Has it gotten better, though? Like, I feel like with Trump, it's gotten better. I don't watch CNN much.
They call out Trump more, but the thing that drives me crazy is the stuff they call out Trump on. So, like, they'll obsess over the fact that Donald Trump, is wrong about the fact that he had the biggest fucking inauguration crowd. Like, okay, he lied, he's wrong, you can see the pictures, it's clear, okay? Got it. But they'll spend a day talking about that, and they'll spend no time talking about, whatever, Steve Mnuchin, Goldman Sachs guy for Treasury Secretary, and what Steve Mnuchin did, and how he's a criminal, and how it's crazy that he's appointed. And they won't spend any time going through Jeff Sessions, who Trump picked to be Attorney General, and his record, like I did on my show. So, like, their outrage meter is broken. Like, it's all over trivial nonsense. Like, he'll tweet something about Ivanka and Nordstrom's, and they'll be like, oh, we got to talk about that nonstop. It's like, but wait a second. In the same fucking day, he just said he wants to steal Iraq's oil again. Like, he just advocated fucking war crimes, and you're focused on a tweet about Ivanka. Like, they just don't know what to focus on because they're not really policy interested. They don't really care about the people.
They want hits. They want
so it's just
coverage.
The squeaky wheel gets the grease. Oh my God, Alec Baldwin did an impression. Let's talk about that for fucking 3 hours. But
I love when you like retweet something. It's like George Clooney and someone else and like a creditable news story. Well, you're just like, not news.
Because fake news I should do the fake news thing. But like CNN tweeting out shit like, oh my God, look at what George Clooney's doing. It's like, you're CNN, bitch. Come on, man. But then again, like, this is why we're getting popular. Like, this is why, because people listen and they go, oh my God, he's talking about the policy shit. That's crazy. Mm-hmm. It's like, it's not. I'm doing the shit that they're supposed to be doing. You know? So, anyway, last thing I wanted to talk about. So, I notice this sometimes. Like, I will end up just eating, if I'm busy, sometimes I just end up eating one giant meal a day. Does that ever happen to you?
Yeah, I'll get to the end of the day. I'm like, damn, all I had today was an omelet or something, maybe just a fucking granola bar or something.
That's me too.
Like that.
I'll have granola bar when I wake up, and then, like, at fucking 4 o'clock, I'm like, I didn't eat shit, and I'm starving. And then I'll eat a whole lot, and then I just won't eat again. And I was wondering if that one meal thing is more common. Like, I was wondering if it's just me or if it was.
No, I feel like a lot of people do that. Just because it's like some days you're busy or you're just doing shit out and about, and it's like you don't have time to eat or something like that.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, you're like, all right, now I got some time. I'm gonna house the whole fucking pizza to the face right now.
Yeah, I've done that many times. But then like when I'm working out heavy, I try to do the 4 or 5 meals a day.
Yeah.
You eat every 2 or 3 hours or something, a little something.
Yeah. It's tough.
It is tough. It's tough to stick to, but what happens, at least with me, is I never end up having a big meal ever. Like, it's just always a little, and then it really melts the weight off you. Like, it gets you more cut when you do that.
Yeah. I've been doing that now. I've been doing like a low cut where I'm just having like cheese and turkey and omelet in the morning.
So staying away from the carbs?
Have like some meat. Yeah, staying away from carbs.
That'll get you shredded.
Yeah, get me like cut, but when I do have a meal, like last night I splurged on some pizza. I ate the whole pie just because my body was just like, gimme all of that. Gimme.
Yeah.
So I was able to eat more, but I don't know, sometimes when I don't eat a lot and I just have like a drink or something like that, that'll like satisfy me for a couple more hours.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to be hitting the gym hard again soon. I kind of missed there was a good 4-year period, maybe 5-year period where I was gym obsessed. And
but eating is you see some huge people that just eat a whole bunch of nasty shit, and they'll probably die eventually, but they're just grubbing. And then other people are so conscious about what they eat. Like I'm listening to Rogan more now, and it's like he's super conscious about what he eats.
Yeah, no, and he literally never went through a phase. Like, it's actually kind of inspirational. Like, he never went through a phase where he didn't work out. He says, I have to do it. Like, I don't know if he does it every day or if it's like 5 days a week or some shit. But he says, like, he views it as like brushing his teeth. Like, I just got to do something every day, whatever it might be, maybe some cardio that day, weight training, kettlebells, whatever it is. And there's pictures of him online for people who haven't seen it. If you type in Joe Rogan, even if you just type in Joe Rogan, it probably comes up, but him without his shirt on. And
is he ripped? He's ripped?
Ripped! He's got like no fucking body fat on him. None.
But he's also like a black belt, like judo or something.
That's where it started. Yeah, I think martial arts started young for him, and he was obsessed, and there was a period where he wanted to like do it, but then after he fought a bunch of times, he would like have headaches at night, and he's like, I don't want to fucking ruin my like future quality of life and be drooling on myself when I'm like 50 or some shit. So he stopped competitively fighting, but he always trained jiu-jitsu, a whole bunch of stuff. And
that's what separates people who are like masters of their craft from people like fucking me and you. Like I go through waves where it's like I'll hit the gym hard, but then I'm like, fuck this.
But we also always did. Well, not you. You've actually been better because you did CrossFit for a while. Mm-hmm. But I just did it for the typical like high school / college vain reasons. Like mm-hmm. I would always do the fucking body parts that the typical douchebag would do. Like let me do chest and arms, bro. Yeah. I'm doing chest. I'm doing biceps. I'm doing triceps. I'm doing traps. And I would fucking ignore my legs. And it's like, well, that's
I never
stupid.
do legs anyway because you fucking walk every day.
No, I need to do legs because what happened? Like, I noticed this no mo on this, but I noticed that like watching Rory McIlroy play golf, he's short as fuck. He's really short. He's like 5'4" or some shit, or 5. So, Rory, I love you, but it's a fact, dude. What am I gonna say? So like watching him play golf sometimes, like he's got like he's got an ass. Like it's a male ass, but it's an ass, and I'm like, I kind of want that.
Appreciate that. Yeah,
I'm like, I kind of want that. It looks like fucking strong.
Yeah.
And I never had an ass. I'm like a dude with just a fucking. I mean, it is.
Neither do I.
Yours is better than mine. I mean, like at least because you play ball a lot and shit, and it was always better. I'm not saying you have an ass.
We're on our feet every fucking day. Like you're walking up some stairs, or you're like you do
not
like,
enough. You gotta do squats. You gotta do deadlifts. You gotta. I'm not saying go crazy because like you can injure yourself pretty easily with those kinds of exercises. But if I just throw some squats and deadlifts in once a week or something, then in like 3 months, all of a sudden you have an ass.
Yeah,
it's like, oh, this is great. So anyway, long story short, when I get back into it, it's gonna be not just the vein parts anymore.
Legs 24/7.
Not legs 24/7, but
I would always just feel like when I'm working out my legs, I'd be like, damn, I could be working out my biceps right now.
that was me all through high school and college. It was just chest, fucking buys, tries, and traps.
Everybody thinks that. Anybody who works out their legs and doesn't think like, damn, I could be doing some chest and arms right now, and not like just working on my legs, they're lying.
That's true, yeah. But then I feel like there are multiple women who I've heard say, like, man, I like a guy with a nice back. And I'm like, back? Like, I would never think, like, what do you mean? Like, why? But they say it. And it's like, oh, well, maybe I should spend more time on my back then, because that's, like, that's another one.
Guys, we look at girls, and it's like, we don't care if their arms are, like, cut up. We just want to see a nice, like, legs and butt.
Exactly. No guy has ever said in the history of the world, you're not toned enough in your arms, baby. Come on. Never happened. Never.
Yeah.
All right, we should wrap this up because you got shit you got to do. I got some other stuff on the list, but I'll save it for next time. So,
Son, quickly, you got to see the movie Split. It was pretty good.
Split? What's that about?
He's got 23 different personalities. And
that's with Jake Gyllenhaal, right?
No, it's like some weird dude. I don't even know his name. Okay. Not Gyllenhaal, though.
Is it on demand already or no?
No, it's just in the theaters.
Oh, okay.
Like M. Night Shyamalan did it, and supposedly, yesterday was pretty good. It was a good movie. It was good. It was just crazy to think that, like, I think whatever disease he has is like real inside of people, and people like look down upon this guy because he's got all these different personalities, so they thought he was a little weird.
Yeah.
But then a psychologist was saying that like he's on a next level shit because he could tap into different parts of his brain that other people couldn't. So it's sort of cool seeing that shit.
I kind of want to watch it. That sounds really interesting. So.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
All right, guys. Love y'all. We'll see you soon. Corin, enjoy the rest of your day, brother. Peace.